You know, the sharp, bitter smell of charred wood was still clinging to my clothes when she sauntered into my courtroom like she owned the damn place. Kendra Voss Harlan, the woman who just tried to burn me out of my own home. There I was, Judge Elena Hawthorne, in my black robes, gavel ready, staring down the barrel at this HOA nightmare who'd thought torching a judge's house would silence me for good. But oh, honey, she'd lit a fire in me that was about to engulf her whole twisted world, and I was going to serve it up cold with a sight of lifetime behind bars. It all started 6 months earlier, back when my life felt like it was crumbling faster than old drywall. I'd just lost Thomas to that relentless cancer battle, 30 years of marriage, gone in a haze of hospital rooms and quiet goodbyes. Our little 1950s bungalow in Willow Creek Meadows was all I had left, a cozy spot where blue-collar folks like us had raised families, where retirees like Eddie Thompson down the street still mowed their lawns with those ancient push mowers. But then the big money rolled in, tearing down modest homes for these oversized monstrosities with four-car garages and infinity pools, and suddenly, our quiet neighborhood turned into a battlefield of standards and skyrocketing taxes. Kendra showed up like a storm cloud, 42 years old, zipping around in her glossy black Range Rover, always sipping some overpriced kale smoothie while judging everyone else's life choices. She'd married into Harlan Construction, moved in a year back, and immediately crowned herself HOA queen, hell-bent on upgrading Willow Creek, which really meant pushing out anyone who didn't fit her polished, perfect vision. My first run-in with her hit me right in the gut while I was out back planting Thomas's memorial hedge, a simple row of evergreens we'd sketched out together in his last weeks. Our little barrier against the world, where we could sip tea and watch the dawn without nosy eyes peering in. The sweet pine scent was mixing with the morning dew when I heard her heels clicking on the path. "You must be the widow," she says. "Not a hello, not a sorry for your loss, just this cold once over like I was a stray dog in her yard." "Judge Hawthorne," I corrected her, brushing dirt off my hands, feeling that old courtroom steel kick in despite the ache in my chest. "Right, the judge," she drawls, like it's a bad word, pulling out this ridiculous gold tape measure that snaps like a snake. "I'm Kendra, HOA president. We've got an issue here." She measures my hedge with all this dramatic flair, lips twisted. 6 feet 3 inches. Regs say max 6, that's a $600 fine, plus demo costs. I stood up slow, my back cracking from grief-fueled nights, and asked to see the rule. She fumbles through her fancy binder. Nothing, because it didn't exist. I'd had a surveyor check it twice. "We'll see about that, Judge," she hisses, her spray-tan face flushing, and walks off like she'd won some war. That night, over cold pizza and Thomas's favorite scotch, I dug into records. Bam, 3 years ago. Harlan Construction was in my court, trying to bilk a 75-year-old vet out of $25K for phony foundation work. I'd slammed them with fraud referrals. This wasn't about a hedge. It was payback, pure and ugly. And she'd picked the wrong widow to mess with. From there, it snowballed into this petty siege, Kendra turning my grief into her personal playground. Certified letters started piling up, 8 in 2 weeks, each one more ridiculous than the last, fining me for Thomas's stone plaque that read, "Love that endures," calling it an unapproved eyesore, or my faded blue mailbox that had been there since the 80s, now suddenly clashing with community vibe. The kicker? A notice for excessive wildlife attraction because of my single bird feeder, where finches, Thomas's favorites, would flutter in, reminding me of mornings when he'd sneak up and wrap his arms around me. Fines stacking up to $400 a pop, threats of lions. It was harassment wrapped in bureaucracy. But 20 years on the bench had taught me how to spot shaky alibis. These rules were ghosts, no hearings, no bylaws backing them. So I hunkered down in Thomas's old study, surrounded by his musty law books, and built my fortress. Photos, spreadsheets, complaints to the state real estate board. Then she upped the ante, caught on my new cams while I was sentencing a fraudster downtown. Kendra and her posse, her yoga instructor and some buff consultant, poking around my yard, faking violations, pointing at Thomas's lilacs like they'd committed a crime. Eddie knocked later, pipe smoke curling, whispering about how she'd driven out the Lopez family with fines over their backyard virgin statue, called it non-conforming decor, or hit single mom Jenny with penalties for her kids' sidewalk chalk rainbows. It clicked. This wasn't just me. It was a purge, targeting Latinos, seniors, anyone not in her elite club, all to flip properties for her husband's shady deals. My blood boiled. Thomas always said justice was like gardening, patient, rooting out weeds before they choke everything. But Kendra crossed into felony land when she trespassed for real, strutting through my gate in her Lululemon getup, snapping pics like a stalker, peering into my kitchen at Thomas's mug I couldn't wash yet, then deliberately propping the gate open with this smug grin. I got home exhausted from a child abuse case, and Whiskers was gone. My 15-year-old Tabby, Thomas's last rescue from a rainy alley, the furry anchor who'd purred through chemo nights. Panic hit hard. I searched for days, voice raw from calling, Eddie rallying neighbors, even the Lopezes drove back to help. Vet call came, Whiskers in critical, ribs cracked, dehydrated from being chased by, get this, Kendra's landscaping goons with blowers, herding him like prey through that open gate. Not harassment anymore, attempted murder on my last link to Thomas. Rage turned to resolve. I changed locks, filed cruelty charges, called newshound Lisa Chen, who aired Judge vs. HOA Tyrant, exposing the targeting, the cat chase, sparking outrage, donations, more victims stepping up like old Mrs. Ellis fined for her late hubby's bench, or the Park family bankrupted over a ramp for their autistic kid. Digging deeper with retired FBI pal Lila Bennett, who showed up with pie and a dossier, unraveled Kendra's web. Not Kendra Voss, but aliases like Tara Harlan from Vegas, Mia Voss from Seattle, a pro-grifter, infiltrating HOAs, harassing out undesirables, embezzling funds, then arson for insurance hauls, over $3 mills stolen, families shattered. Lila's photos showed plans for my house, wiring notes Thomas and I had added, marked for accidental fire to claim spread to hers. It wasn't grudge. I was distraction for her theft, my vulnerability post-Thomas making me prime bait. But she'd miscalculated, poking a judge who knew Rico like her backyard. We built our strike team in my kitchen. Lila, Eddie, hotshot lawyer Sophia Grant, flowcharts everywhere, plotting federal takedown, mail fraud, Idaho theft, conspiracy stacking to life. Upgraded cams caught her mid-crime. Injunctions froze funds. Victim stories poured in. Kendra panicked, planting accelerants while I sentenced a thief. Her crew rigging my foundation for electrical fault. Her bribing the inspector on body cam. Let's handle this quietly. Community safety, you know. Then the blaze at 3 a.m. Flames devouring our bungalow, Thomas's ashes in the garden turning to smoke. But her pre-filed claim at 2:15 sealed it. Premeditated murder. Dawn raids nabbed her and hubby. Assets seized. Trial in my court. Though I recused, watching from the bench as charges rolled. Arson, fraud, rights violations. Kendra's outburst. This judge weaponized the system against honest folk. Judge Ramirez shut her down. You're a terrorist who tried killing a colleague. Evidence buries you. Life without parole, restitution flowing, Willow Creek reborn with fair rules, scholarships in Thomas's name, funding kids like the Lopez girl to law school. But here's the twist that still nags me. Was my revenge too personal, bending justice just enough? Or was it the system finally working? What do you think? Share your HOA horrors below. Tell me if you'd fight back the same, or if public shaming's enough. Like, subscribe, let's chat about real community justice.